Hi everyone, if you're watching a recording, do fast forward 2 minutes. We're just getting started today. It's Monday, and we haven't been on for what feels like ages, 7 days. Thought we'd make sure that everything is up and running before really being up and running. That's the key. Let's see if I can get the chat going today. The chat that's only half helpful to me. Almost there. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I know we did. Virtually Evercrafting was this past weekend, and it was, pretty successful. No big catastrophes to speak of. Okay. Let's see. There we go. All right. I think we're just about there. Okay. Let's see. So, sound test. I'm assuming everybody can hear me. So much for that sound test. Jeez. Okay, so you can hear me. This is good. It looks like we should be up and running on all channels today. As always, we are on YouTube, Twitch TV, and Q-Talk, Q-Talk on Facebook, and of course my personal page on Facebook. If you are on my personal page, do jump over and to the Q-Talk page. That's where you're going to find all the information. My personal page is not up, Andy says, so let's take a look real quick here. Maybe I didn't turn it on. How about I turn it on? I'll have to say that again. It's connecting now to the personal page. Okay. So we're just about there to get ready. Oh, my goodness, it's amazing how 2 minutes goes by, huh? Anyway, so today is Monday. It is Start From Scrap, a series on what to do with all your scrap metal. And, it's been sort of like working in my brain what to do with my scrap metal. And it's been an interesting challenge. My goal has been to try to keep this as fluid as possible. Try not to formulate too much ahead of time so that you can see what the process is, and hopefully you'll pick up some tips and tricks along the way as you're thinking through your process and trying to figure out how to approach new projects and what to do with your scrap metal. So we're going to do something a little bit different. Wait, is it a little bit different? No, we've been doing mixed metal. So it's not just your silver scrap, but also your copper and brass scrap to add to it. So why not? Just trying to utilize all of our resources instead of throwing it away. If you know me, you know that I like to recycle. I like to upcycle more than I like to recycle, and I'm all about conservation and using what we have. So on that note, what I came up with today is we're going to make a pendant. And, it was sort of interesting when I sat down to think about this. And when I went to pull the material, when I sat down to think about this, I decided, you know what, you can still use your scrap, but maybe you can start with a base of something that you already have of regular stock. And so I was going to go find a piece of copper as my base and just cut off a piece from what I had in inventory. And then I decided, if this is really, really, really going to be from scrap, we should start with scrap. And I happened to find these pieces in my scrap, and believe it or not, this piece was also in my scrap. Yeah, I know, my scrap sometimes is a little bit more than most people. But I also had this piece hanging around, and I thought, let's see what we can do by putting them together. Additionally, the design today is going to be involving all the twisted wire, some beaded wire, and I even have a piece of chain here. This is sterling silver, what they call bead chain, because it's so small that it'll go through a bead. Whether or not I use all these things, I don't know. But, I was just trying to pull pieces together that I literally had sitting around in my scrap pile, and I'll probably have to pull some more out of my scrap pile. This is my so-called good scrap pile that's sitting there. So anyway, so the thought was that what we would do today is to do a bicolor piece to create a pendant, and that I would incorporate these little pieces to make a design in my my copper sheet. And as I was thinking through this process, I was thinking that, you know, this copper is a little thin. It's 24 gauge, and when I wear a pendant, I like it to be a little bit more substantial. 24 gauge doesn't really cut it for me. So that's when I was thinking, oh, well, you know, I happen to have this piece of metal here. What am I ever going to do with it? Well, if I was going to do anything with this piece, I would have probably cut a disc out of it to make something with it. So, but in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a double-sided pendant, and by soldering them together, the two 24 gauges together, it'll give me a nice substantial piece. At least I hope. So knock on wood, I have yet, this is the 4th scrap project that we're doing. I feel like we've had some pretty good successes, so hopefully today will be another success. And you know, four is a good number. That rounds out a month, right? Anyway, okay, so let's have a little wetness here. So let's start with flattening out our metal. You know, when I'm using sheet metal, I like it to be really flat so that I prep it for soldering. And because this piece was rolled, if it was still springing back and not flat, I'd anneal it. But it seems to be, because it's copper, it seems to be flattening out really nice and easily, which is great. So we'll flatten all the other pieces out too, just to give a good surface to work from. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to be working on a honeycomb block today because I feel like I'm going to need the stability in it with the pins, by being able to pin things down to keep things from rolling away. Again, not completely clear where all I'm going with this, but we're just going to make it up as we go. So put this down. I feel like I want a diagonal going. The piece is going to be squarish, maybe a rectangle. We'll see. And of course, not knowing exactly what I'm doing, I posted just a generic list of tools that I thought I might use. Okay, so here I have a piece of, I think, 16 gauge square wire that was just sort of hanging out. I'm like, oh, hey, wouldn't it be cool to put it right in the middle, just like so. That works. So I'm going to choose to work from the back. This is actually going to be the back of my piece, okay? And so I'm just going to go ahead and lay solder on this side and not worry about the bleed, and hopefully it'll be nice and clean on the other side. Did you see here how I put that? Hopefully. Okay. And so the thought process is thinking, wouldn't it be fun to sort of like have this copper piece and have some of these silver designs going on it, and this is a granule. I have a tendency to save my granules for future use, like what I'm doing here, or maybe here. And then I have some jump rings. Okay, so like this jump ring was cut off of a charm. You know, you can use it at some point, right? One thinks. So we'll see. We shall see. So something like that, maybe. Okay. So here, I'm going to do 2 solder joints at one time. I think might not use that. We'll take out our 2-hole punch and actually mark this so I know where I'm going. Oops, wrong pen. Let's go ahead and put it here. And I'm going to punch a hole out of my copper, and I'm going to punch a hole from some silver over here and see if I can get that to line up. So I'm going to try to do as much soldering as I can of it at one time every time I go to solder, so I don't open up anything funky. Okay, so did that go through? I think that went through. I feel like I need a replacement part here. It was a little tight. Okay, so there's my hole. And then I gotta grab some scrap again, and I'm grabbing some silver scrap because I'm looking for contrast today. So I'm contrasting silver and copper. So let's be really honest about the project today. So Andy says to me, what time was it, honey? 12? So 12:30. He said, you know what time it is, right? Are you ready for today? I'm like, it's 12:30? Crap. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm ready. So literally I'm throwing this together about a half an hour ago. So you want to talk about a fluid process? I'm trying. I guess today really put it to the test, huh? So I'm actually punching. Ooh, what? You're going to stop working on me? Really? Oh, I think it did. Ow. I think it did. Okay, it doesn't want to go through. Like I said, I feel like I need to replace this piece. But all right, so I punched the silver one, and I was going to punch a second one just to have a backup, but I'm going to continue to go squeeze this down, and it's deciding that it doesn't want to go in. Okay, I need to get another part here, a replacement part, but let's see if this one falls out. Nope, only the copper pieces came out. Let's see, can I get any more out of there? Okay. Sorry about that. Let me go grab another one. Good thing I have multiple tools. We'll try that again. But just to ensure, because they're manufactured from different people, different companies, I want to make sure. Oh, this one doesn't reach. Well, I was going to repunch that hole. Looks like that's not happening. But I'm going to punch another disc here and see. Let's keep our fingers crossed that they fit. Wow, look at that. That one went through very nicely. Okay. And we'll do another one because we can. Just to have extra, because you know it's going to roll right off the bench. I already feel it. And I'm going to punch this all the way through again to see if I can get them to loosen up and pop out. Oh, good. I got one. See if I can punch this one out too? Probably not. All right. Let's see, mister. Are you going to fit for me? Don't. Maybe. Okay. And of course, I did not punch that correctly, and it's not round. Arrgh. Okay. 5th time's a charm. Are we at 5? Do another one. There we go. And, you know, I'm going to put this right on top and see if I can get that to go ahead and go inside. We'll hammer down on it to get it in. Nope. Hold on. Tweezers. Oops. Okay, that's a big fat no. The problem is that I use two different cutters and that these little dots are different sizes. But you know what? Maybe I'll use it anyway. Put that to the side. How about I just lay it on top instead of just putting it on there? Or I'm sorry, instead of just trying to punch it through, I'm going to lay it right on top. Maybe. Once I get to the other side. All right, we're just going to solder this. I give. You know, sometimes you just have to know when to call it quits. I'm going to pin that. All right, I'm going to heat this just a little bit and then put solder on there because it'll be easier to lay the solder once this is a little warm when we're talking about paste solder, right? Just get a little bit warm, not to the point of fire scale. And I'm going to use copper solder paste, teeny weeny bit, just to get that together. So, because remember, in the end, I'm going to solder a back plate to this anyway. I'm just trying to stabilize it in place. Why am I not just soldering it directly to the back plate? You'll see. I suppose I could. Wait a second. Why am I doing it this way? Let me think about this for a second. Why am I doing? Oh, I know. Sorry. Gotta think it through, man. Think it through. Because I want the back plate to be solid, and I still have other pieces to add on to it. I suppose I could have left this one and not have soldered this one and done the other ones first. But remember, we are just working through and figuring out our design process here. There you go. Okay. So I was waiting to see that the solder ran the whole length, and until it did that, I was not going to stop. Yippity-doo-dah, nice and clean. Throw that in the pickle. All right, so next up is this piece. I don't like, ooh, hot, hot. Jeez, hello? What was I thinking? And I just want a slight bend on it, so we'll put it on our bracelet bender and see. Oops. I knew that was going to break. There was a solder joint there. That's okay. A little bit more of a bend. But I pull out some pliers to do that. Because your nails are not a tool. But are they? Okay. Set that there. All right, let's pull this out of the pickle. Oops, wrong pickle pot. I have two pickle pots, and yes, I tried to pull it out of the wrong pickle pot. Let's see. So we have a nice and clean side there. I'm going to go ahead and take out my shears, cut a curve in here for the bead wire. And where's my curve shears? So I'm going to choose to go with my curve shears because I'm cutting a curve and it should make my life a lot easier. And we'll go make a curve. Okay. Flatten that out again. And my wire is heavier, my middle wire is heavier than the sheet metal. So I'm turning it upside down to the flat because if I was to try to hammer it this way, it will continue to warp the metal. So just remember to keep thinking about it when you're doing these things and making those kinds of considerations. this is how it's going to go. Great. We'll put it back on. Okay. Let's not pick up hot pins, shall we? Like so. Clearly not the right angle. Grab some pliers. Where are my pliers? Fumble, fumble. Major fumbles today. Oh, it's right in front of me. So, for those of you who are doing virtually ever crafting over the weekend, did you finish all your projects? Chop, chop, let's go. Let's get them done. The next one is going to be, I believe, the first week of May, so you can start planning on that. For any instructor out there who is watching, start preparing, because that's what we're doing. And if you've never participated in virtually ever crafting before, everyone is welcome to apply. So please reach out and we'll get you an application. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to match up my curve right now. And this is just a piece of scrap bead, full round bead wire. Okay, so a little bit more of a bend out. First weekend of May is Mother's Day weekend, Andy's telling me. Oh, we're going to have to readdress that. Okay, almost there. So close. It's a lot straighter than I thought it was. So much for that bend. All right. This should do it. Yes. Now I feel like I'm talking to the puppy with my yeses and good boys. My vocabulary has been reduced to yes, good boy. Well, okie dokie. There we are. Push it in, pin it in place, like so. Too tight to pin. Oh, too tight to pin. There. So we'll just hope for the best. Okay, so now we're going to put some heat on it again. We want good connections. I'm sorry, access what? So I had a question out there. Someone's asking if they can still buy videos from Virtually Ever Crafting. The answer is yes, you may. Some of the instructors are also still willing to send out kits too. So if you're interested in kits, you can definitely still purchase them, and you just won't get it obviously till later. But that is an option. And I just put heat again on this piece to help place the solder because I'm using paste solder. On this project, if you were using anything but paste solder, if you're using pallions, you just start placing the pallions down. Okay, so I'm just pushing this in just to make sure I have a good connection, and we're going to give it a go here. Yes, I know many of you have multiple projects waiting for your attention. Hey, which means I did a good job, which means we did a good job, that we presented nice projects that you were able to sign up for multiple projects, right? There we go. Solder, solder, solder. Make my connection for me. So I want to make sure it flows really nicely and makes a good connection. Okay, and because it is copper, it's going to take a second to set, so don't go touching this too quickly. Okay. Don't pick up those pins, they're hot. I'm not saying that for your sake, I'm saying it for my sake, really. Yeah, because I'm the idiot who would pick it up. Okay. So let's see what it looks like on the other side. Oh, pretty cool. So that's what it looks like on the other side. It's coming. It's coming. I'm feeling pretty good about this so far. All right, let's throw it in the pickle again and think about what we're doing on the other side. I think that I'm going to need some jump rings for the bail. So I happen to have a square, leftover square tube from the 4 square project. And there's a jump ring. So I think I'm going to use that as my bail just to make it a little bit more interesting and use up my scrap. And let's see. This jump ring again was from you can probably see it, right? You can see how I cut it off of something. So that was from a charm. So you know what? Oh, I'm going to file that down, make it really nice before I use it. Like so. Put a little tiny bit of a file on there just to make it look really nice. And I don't know why this charm was soldered with an opening on the jump ring, but it was. So we're going to close it up nicely. You can see the teeny weeny little opening there. Okay. Let's pull this out of the pickle. And let's solder some pieces on top. The reason why we don't have to switch out solders is because it's self-leveling. Copper solder paste is self-leveling, so which means that every time you go to heat it again, it takes more heat before it flows. All right, so before I solder any pieces on, you can see that my pieces are a little bit high, right? Because we've soldered it flat on this side. So I can make a decision here. One of two things is, one, I can decide to choose to make this the front side with all of the texture and the differences in height. It depends on what you're looking for. I'm looking for a really smooth transition today. So I'm actually going to sit here and sand this off really quickly with some really heavy sandpaper to get this nice and flat. Because if I was to solder this now flat, what will happen is, more than likely, you see, it's sort of a sandwich, more than likely these pieces will fall over and I will no longer have that nice smooth transition. So we'll pull out some really heavy duty sandpaper here. This is 100. And we're going to sand this flat really quickly here. I hear Pam in my ear. Use your gloves. Look at that, gloves. We like our gloves. We like our fingernails. We like our fingernail polish. I know. I need another round of fingernail polish after this past weekend. Yes, filing flat pieces is not fun or easy. It's going to take a minute. Oh, see, this is what happens when you're doing, but it's happening pretty quickly because this is 100. And I'm not so worried about doing this, obviously, because I can't anyway, about doing this in a figure 8 or a circle, because it's the back side. And I'm just trying to take off the high spots to get this to be really nice and flat. That's all. You know what? How about I try it this way? How about I take out a file? Maybe. Oh yeah, there you go. Should go a little faster. A lot faster. Let's get the other glove out. So my beads are coming down really nicely. You can already see how flat it is there. I'm using this file because I love this file. What can I say? I just love this file. Let's trim this off real quick. Put that back in the scrap pile. So next week, what I have planned for the scrap, and I was actually going to do it this week, but my crucible did not come in. I have broken crucibles here, so I need a new one. But we're going to melt some stuff down and see what we can do with the melted stuff. I think that should be fun. By the way, if you're around on Saturday, we're doing a free Zoom, and we're going to make bagels. There is a kit available, but you don't have to get the kit because most of you, a lot of us already have the materials, and the recipe is on the website at theurbanbeater.com. Just do a search for bagels, and we did post the link for the bagels on this video, so you can definitely go there. But it's just a little departure, just to do something fun, right? Something different, because you cannot survive on jewelry alone. We need sustenance, and nothing like a good healthy dose of carbs, right? Almost there. See, so it's really come down quite a bit. A little bit more would be great. Again, I'm just taking down the metal to flatten it. And, if I was doing this with regular stock, then it would be a little bit more formulated and a lot less work. But remember, we're trying to salvage our scrap metal. Actually, it's coming together so pretty. So pretty. I almost like this side better. Can you guys see that? So it has this little flat surface, whereas this side has more of a textured surface. So depending on what you're looking for, maybe this is what you're doing. Maybe you choose this side, depending on your personal preference. There's always a reward for all the work you put in. Well, at least I hope. And even if you melt things at the end and things fall apart, you know what? We're rewarded with experience. Right? Right. Come on. Agree with me. It's a learning opportunity. Let's see if I can push around here a little bit more. Cool. Pretty flat. Pretty happy with that. We'll put it back on here. And let's solder some more pieces, and then we'll trim it out. And you'll see where I'm going with all this, so I don't get all hot. Tweezers. Tweezers are lost again. Amazing. Okay, good thing I have a second pair. So we're going to put a little bit of solder right on here, and instead of trying to inlay that dot, I'm just going to solder it right on top. Put a little solder. And then we'll put this right on there and cover up that hole. I thought it would be cute to do a little inlay thing. Not happening for me right now. And then we've closed up this jump ring. I think I'm going to put this jump ring here. So put a little bit of solder on him. And you know, I have that opening, so I'm going to put the solder right under that opening, just to ensure it looks closed. Oops, I don't want to go too far out. Okay, now that I got solder everywhere, I just don't want it to bleed everywhere because I'm using copper. I got to move it up here because I'm going to trim this out so that it matches the silver. Okay, and then I was going to put a little granule in there, maybe. I don't know. Let's see what we have. Do we have any? Ooh, 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 ooh. Maybe. Wait, come back. Oh, yes. Okay. Tiny little bit of solder. Just drop in there. Okay. Done deal. Okay, there you go. That's going to be my other design. Anything else? Should we put anything else in there? Yeah, we're going to go with that. Okay. Heat the whole thing because I have 2 pieces to solder. Make sure you're heating at that blue tip. All right, give it a second to think about it. Cool beans. We'll throw it in the pickle. And then we're going to trim this out. So, you know, for me, it's really hard to cut a square. I don't know why, but it always is. So I always try to have a template of some sort to help me find those 90-degree angles. Okay. While it is thinking about this, so this is going to be my bail while it's pickling is what I'm trying to say. This is going to be my bail, and this is a little bit too thick. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn on my other camera because I forgot. And I'm going to trim down this tube. Despite how small it is, you can absolutely cut it if you have the right tools. There we go. Oops, we're upside down. There we are. Okay, give me a second here. Okay, we'll switch cameras. Oh. Oops, what was that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tube and I'm going to put it in my tube cutting plier. Carefully, let's see, probably tweezers would be helpful. And putting it in between, put it in between the slit right there. And we're going to cut it down. Make sure you put this against your workbench. Take out your saw blade or your saw and just saw it through. You have to have the pliers against your bench or something. You cannot hold it up in the air you will just break your saw blade. Nice long strokes, not little strokes, okay? Nice long strokes. There we go. And you see, see what a tiny little piece I can cut by using the tube cutting pliers. And of course, if you don't have the tube cutting plier, it's on our website at theribbonbeater.com. I know. Silly me. All right, I'm going to sand this down just a little bit because it was not a perfect cut. Here's where I go in that figure 8. Ooh-ah. Good, good, good. Good enough. All right, there we are. Set that aside. Let's go grab our piece out. Let's trim it, put a back on it, and put a bail on it. There we go. All right, so how are we going to make a straight cut? Challenges, challenges. So I'm going to put something that has a square on it like here, and I'm going to match up. You see that? I'm going to match up one edge. Just pull it back and go like so. Don't use your curved shears. Use your straight shears at this point because it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to make a straight cut. So, and then we'll do it again. Again, using that as a straight edge, we're going to go like so. Oops, too high. Uh-oh. I made that jump ring a little too close here because I wanted this silver to come all the way to the end, and that's not going to happen the way I did that. So I don't know, we'll see. Who knows what I'm going to do with it. Okay, so here we'll go with this edge. Not bad. Not bad. So now I need to decide what I want to do with this. So the only way I'm going to cut this if I want it to fill in that spot is to saw this. But since this is just sort of for fun, I'm going to keep moving. My piece is gnarled, so we'll need to make sure that we get that flat again. So now we'll go ahead and solder it flat to this piece. Oh, phew. I totally guessed that one, and it fits. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to the tripod. We'll do it like this. Let's move out a little bit. Okay, so we'll put a ton of solder on the bottom here and get these two pieces to solder together. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put it on here. Then I don't have to guess where I'm putting it on this piece because it doesn't match up perfectly. And I'm going to be putting it on the edges because I really want a good seal along the outside. The middle doesn't mean anything to me. So for me, it's more important to have it along the edges. And this is a lot of solder because there's a lot of surface. And of course, as much as I say it doesn't matter, I am going to put a little bit of solder there, but my focus is on the outside. Just like that. And notice I'm putting the design down because I wanted it to be a double-sided piece. Like so. And it was a little tight. And I'm just going to check and make sure that I have good contact all around. So here, to solder this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat from the bottom, get it really nice and hot before I bring it to the top. Because one of the biggest mistakes people make is they only heat from the top and they wonder why their piece is not making connection to the bottom. Remember, when you're soldering, both pieces have to come to the same temperature so that the solder flows evenly between the two to make the connection. The notch. Well, I'm glad you approve of my mistake out there. Someone said that the notch gives us a little bit more interest. Okay, so I see that my one end is not really up, so I'm going to push it down a little bit and see if I can get that to connect. Come over the top. There we go. Oh, and that's how you don't do it, but I don't think you can see what happened there. You'll see that in a second. Hey, things happen. All right, let's quench that. Okay, I'm going to throw it right into the pickle. So what happened was I overheated, doing too many things at the same time, listening to Andy tell me about comments out there, and I didn't notice that I actually melted the bead wire. I know, too much heat from the bottom, forgot to come up to the top. Good lesson. All right, put away a couple of tools here so I can go to the next step. Probably need a file to file the edges. Good student files. Always a good thing to keep on your bench. Let's take a look. Sorry, I'm cleaning up here because I have no space to work with. Sorry about the head. Okay, so if your piece is not flat to each other, because it's warped or something, go ahead and put it on a bench block and tap it down and then resolder. So like right here, don't know if you can see that. Let's see, let's zoom in. You can see a tiny little gap right here, you see? So if I was to fix this, which I probably should, I'll show you here in a second. Needs a little bit more pickling. Before it pickles, I'll go ahead and tap it down. So I'm just going to tap it down like so to get it nice and flat. And I'm just checking to see that everything's flat. I don't know if you can see that, but there's my break. It just sort of, yeah, came apart. Ooh, and this piece melted nicely too. All right, throw it back in the pickle one more time. We'll trim it, file it, and go ahead and put the bail on so you can see where I'm going with this. So what do you do with those melted pieces? Well, you can start over by reverse soldering. Frankly, this piece is going to be really hard to reverse solder. Or you can find an embellishment and cover it up. Because we're not married to this design, because it's supposed to be fluid. Ah! I know. Today's drinking word is fluid. Everybody take a shot when I say fluid. we up to 5 yet? Probably. Pickle's not playing along. Try the other pickle pot. The pickle pot doesn't want to play along either, but that's okay. We're just going to keep moving. Taha, yep. So this is a product of overheating. Let's talk about it. So I way overheated. I had, my mind had strayed, but this is what you can see. So I guess the lesson today is how to know that you've overheated. You can see the solder has bled to the top because it was hot. And so that's where it went. Okay. It is what it is. But we'll see what happens after we liver sulfur it. So now I'm just going to trim the pieces down, like so. And you know, this would be great with silver also, I think. Especially once you patina this, there should be, idealistically, a lot of contrast. It is a little bit of an assumption on my part, but knowing what we know, it's all good theory. So now I'm just trimming off the corners to create a radius because it's faster and easier to create it this way than it is to sit here and file those radiuses, right? And then, so you'll just file this down. And I'm doing this before I put on the bale because I don't want anything in my way. And make sure that you file your edges really nice and even. Mine is not nice and even, but it is good enough for the sake of demoing. And then decide where you want to go with the bale. I think I'm going to go there. Okay, so let's do full disclosure. I didn't cut it really nice and even. You can see a high spot and a low spot. But you know what? I was thinking, I actually like it. So I'm going to leave it just like so. And if you look at it dimensionally, it's sort of fun. Okay. And so we'll go ahead and solder that on. Where's my tweezers? Again. We'll put some more solder on the end there. And hopefully I won't melt anything else this time. And actually I forgot. I don't even know that part that came up. Can't find it. But if I actually remembered the part that came up, I would just put a little solder on that edge and solder it at the same time. You know, the one that I just hammered down? That one. Okay, find the center. So now we're going to heat it. Now remember, the bale is a lot smaller than this unit, so we want to get this unit hot first before we get the bale hot. And yes, am I facing it the wrong way? Absolutely I am, because I'm not done yet. There's one more step. I wanted to put the square piece on here because I like the look of it and what it presents to the design. Which I thought was fun. How's that? Not completely clear that the solder gods are with me today. But you all are doing the naked moon dance, right? To make sure that this is going to work. For me. I know it was a full moon the other day, wasn't it? Hambala hibala. Hi. Did you work? Did you work? I think you did. Oh, yes. All right. We'll put it in the pickle. So, a couple things you could do here. If you want to continue with the thickness of that square tube, you can take out, I happen to have a chopped off piece of round tubing, just a piece of scrap here, instead of using a jump ring, or you can use a jump ring. And you know what might be nice here is maybe a square wired jump ring so that you know, because sometimes for me it's just so lazy sometimes just to use a round jump ring for a bail. So you know, you could put a little bit more effort into it and do something different. So you know what, let's go ahead and do that. How am I going to add a tube jump ring to this piece? Well, you have to saw it open. Okay, so let's go out. Oops. So I have it on my parallel pliers, and you know, normally I would put it up against my bench, but here I'm just going to hold it right here and saw it open. See if I can do this. No. No. I'm doing this the hard way, totally. There we go. Why? Because I didn't want to move cameras. Just saying, there we go. It didn't take much. It's open now. Okay. You know what's sort of funky? It sort of looks, it's just sort of fun with the way the solder's going. You never know, I might leave it. So then we'll just gently open up this tube and you'll see the look. And of course you'll solder it closed. You should solder it closed. How's that? And I'm just going to very gently, I'm not going to open it like my typical jump ring. I'm just going to pry it apart just a tiny little bit. Oh, lucky me, it actually fits. Woohoo! It was a guess. It was a guess. And we're going to squeeze it back closed. Can you see that? Just gently going to squeeze it like so until it comes together. Again, because this is a tube, we're handling it slightly differently than we would a jump ring. Okay, there it is. Put a little solder on there, solder that closed. Let's do a little finishing on here and see what we can do about making it look better. Okay. You know, it's sort of funky. I sort of like it. So the solder bled everywhere again because I overheated this piece. But let's clean it up. I know. I wonder, what if I heat patina this, right? Instead of liver sulfur. I don't know. Let's try some heat on it. If it doesn't look good, we'll pickle it. And then we're going to call it a day. So again, in here you can see my break and see what happened. You could take some granules and maybe put some on top just to cover it up if you didn't like that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and brush the back side too. And I have solder that bled onto this back side. I can see it there. Again, way overheated this piece today. So heat patina on copper is really cool. Give it a little bit of heat and watch it go. Always underheat if you're looking for colors. Don't go all the way, and just a little bit at a time, and you watch for changes, right? And as soon as you see something you like, you need to stop, and you don't quench it and put it on something cold to arrest the process. Not completely clear this is doing anything for me. Here we go. Let's see. You see that? It's coming. It's coming. There we go. Okay. Put it on something cold. See what happens. I don't know. It's okay. It's not great. Let's see if I can get a little bit more heat on there. See what happens. Stop, 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 stop. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time before we go because I think I can get this to turn to purples, which I think will fix everything. Make it look a little less of a hot mess. Not everything can be a success, right? But we try. We can try. Okay. So start turning orange. And so orange is going to go to red to purple. So let's see what happens here. So that's why I stopped. Because I really, really, really want to see if I can pull out some purples. Purple's starting to come, so I'm pulling it off. Putting it on here. Actually, it's sort of cool. What do you think? Actually, I'm not hating it. Like I did earlier, I think it's cool. So what happened here, where has this played to my advantage? So all that solder is what you're seeing along here, and the exposed copper is churning into the purples and the oranges that you're seeing. I'm digging it. So then what I'm going to do now, is it cool? Once it's cooled, I'm going to take out my brass brush. So this one's a little wonky at this point. So I know a bunch of you have purchased these brass brushes, and they do wear out over time. So I want a better tip. So I'm just going to take out my heavy duty cutter, and I'm going to snip that off. And look, I have a nice surface again. Granted, I also have brass all over my space here. Because this is what happens after you use it. So, there we are. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to brush the silver. Because I want that silver to come back up. Yeah. Because it too patinaed. And it turned a little yellow. I would like it to be really nice and bright. We'll clean the other pieces too. So what's nice about these little tiny scratch brushes is you can get it into little tiny spaces. All right, there you go. What do you guys think? Something to do with your scrap? How to create a little bit of interest. If you didn't like this look, you could have just liver sulfured it, and all the recesses will go really dark and give it that punch and pull out the silver. So there's my back. Not that interesting. Could have liver sulfured the back side. So how do I'm going to take a second out before we stop here. Is how would I liver sulfur the back side without affecting the front? Well, I wouldn't be throwing it into the whole container of liver sulfur. I take out my brush and brush it on so I can control where things are patinaed. But that's how I would do it. And you can see also, I want to point out once again, my bail is a little bit more interesting than your standard bail with the jump ring, right? So those little scraps of tubing that you have can definitely be used to be made into something a little bit, can be used to create a little bit more interest in your pieces. But that is my start from scrap today. So what are we doing this week? On Wednesday, I'm going to be back to do Amy's project in silver and not just copper. So we'll see if we can get that done. It'll probably take 2 weeks to finish that project, but that's what's going on. And then, like I said, on Saturday, we will be back with, or I'm sorry, we'll be doing the bagel Zoom. So definitely join us for that. All the links are posted on the Q Talk Facebook page. And if you are looking for recordings on Virtually Ever Crafting, they are still available and still purchasable. If you need extended viewing time, you can definitely do that. There is a whole page for extended viewing so that you don't have to pay for the entire class all over again. It's $12 to extend the viewing past November 4th if you're still out there. One last note is if you're struggling with the links, it could be a cache problem, or just please reach out to us and we will get you guys squared away. All right? Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. Thanks for liking and sharing the post. Really always appreciate it. Until Wednesday, have